there, and welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. I'm IceMan, and today we're going to be doing a deep dive video on the update 2.30 highlights. So let's get into it, shall we? Right, first things first, if the video looks a little off or the sound's a little bit off, I do apologise. I'm actually doing this while I'm at work. Shh, don't tell the boss. Because I wanted to get this out to you guys as soon as possible. I didn't want to wait until tonight and get it out tomorrow or whatever. So I do apologise if the quality's not quite up to the usual standard, but you know, we'll crack on and do what we can. So today the news has dropped that the update will be coming soon, and we've got, I believe, 4 new champions, 3 of them legendary, 1 epic. So the first one here is Elegaeus. He's going to be the fragment fusion that we've got coming up for Halloween. He's a legendary, obviously, magic affinity support champion with the undead hordes. And let's take a look at his kit, shall we? So here's A1. Spirits of Spite attacks one enemy, has a 25% chance of placing a block cooldown skills debuff for 1 turn. The chance increases by 0.75% for every 1% HP this champion loses. So that sounds pretty cool. It sounds like, you know, that can really increase as he gets lower on health. His A2, Dead Stop, attacks one enemy, puts the target skills on cooldown. If the enemy team has any duplicates of the target champion, theirs will also be put on cooldown. This has a 4-turn cooldown, so that sounds pretty cool. Obviously it will really help in faction wars in particular when you're doing those rounds with lots of Valkyries and the like. You put the cooldowns on one of the champions, it's going to spread to the other Valks because, you know, same champ and all that. So is A3, Ghost Rage, attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of removing 2 random buffs, has a 75% chance of decreasing all enemies' turn meters by 20%, decreases enemy turn meters by a further 0.2% for every 1% of HP this champion loses on a 5-turn cooldown. Again, sounds really cool. This should be interesting. Can't wait to see how it rocks. Then we've got his passive, Spurned by Death, prevents the champion's death and keeps them alive on 1 HP when hit by a fatal hit. If this skill prevents this champion's death, heals them by 10% of their max HP, fills their turn meter by 20%, and places a shield buff on them equal to 30% of their max HP for 2 turns. Will not prevent this champion's death if they are under a block heal debuff. So that sounds really cool, I have to say. This is on a 6-turn cooldown, so obviously you can kill him, but at least that first time he's going to be unkillable. And to be fair, if you pair him with an unkillable champ, he's going to be possibly unkillable for even longer and be getting all the benefits from his other abilities for being really low health. So that could be quite cool, and it will be really interesting to see what we can do with him. Okay, so let's move on. So the next one we've got, absolutely love the avatar here, it looks absolutely brilliant. Little Miss Annie is a legendary void attack champion from the undead hordes. A1, Pretty Nails, attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a 100% heal reduction for 2 turns. So that's pretty cool. Great for the Fire Knight, certainly, but you know, I think it'll be more useful than that even. A2, Hollow Doll, attacks one enemy 2 times, places a 50% increased attack buff on this champion for 2 turns before attacking if the target is under a shield buff. Will ignore 25% of the target's defense if the target is under a shield buff. Places a perfect veil buff on this champion for 2 turns if this attack kills an enemy. Fills this champion's turn meter by 30% if this attack does not kill the target on a 4-turn cooldown. Again, absolutely busted good this sounds, I have to say. This void champion really sounds not similar to Sifi the Lost Bride, but certainly possibly on par. She's certainly sounding very, very interesting. So we might have some meta changes here coming along, guys. Keep your eyes open. So her A3, Playdate, attacks one enemy, will ignore 25% of the target's defense if the target has a higher defense than this champion. Decreases the target's max HP by 25% of the damage inflicted if the target has higher max HP than this champion. interesting, will repeat attack a second time if the target has both higher defense and higher max HP than this champion. So if you build them like a glass cannon, just to hit and low your hit defense and no HP, you're going to get 2 hits out of this. So that actually sounds really cool. And with all that ignore defense and whatnot, then yeah, that could be very interesting. This is on a 6-turn cooldown, by the way. So first passive, because she has 2. Toys don't die. When revived, attacks the enemy that killed this champion with the default skill. Also fills this champion's turn meter by 25% and places a shield buff on this champion equal to 50% of their max HP for 2 turns. That's really kind of cool. Then we've got a second passive, Magical Heart. Each hit has a 50% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 5% and a 50% chance of decreasing the target's max HP by 5% of the damage inflicted when attacking enemies under heal reduction debuffs. Also heals this champion by 5% of the damage inflicted when attacking enemies under heal reduction debuffs. Will not heal from damage inflicted by masteries. Again, really busted good. I do like the sound of this champion, I have to say. The aura increases ally attack in all battles by 33%. So what do you think, guys? Sounds really interesting to me. I really want to get a look at this one. Then our third legendary of the troop is Nama the Returned, a legendary magic affinity support champion from the Night Revenant faction. Her A1 Hell Crescent attacks one enemy, has a 40% chance of increasing the duration of random debuffs on the target by 1 turn. Then we've got an A2 Weirding Dance, attacks one enemy, has 75% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff for 3 turns. Also heals all allies by 15% this champion's max HP. The heal increases by 2% for each poison debuff on the target on a 5-turn cooldown. That sounds pretty cool. Then the A3 Toxin Trance attacks one enemy, has a 75% chance of placing 3 5% poison debuffs and a 25% poison sensitivity debuff for 3 turns on a 6-turn cooldown. Pairs really nicely with her A2, don't you think? Sounds really cool. So her aura increases ally accuracy in dungeons by 80, which is pretty good. And on to the epic. So we've got Masked Fearmonger. He's an epic, obviously. A spirit affinity champion, attack based with the Bannerlords. His A1 Nightmare attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit decreases the target's turn meter by 7.5% if the target is under a fear or a true fear debuff. Reduces the cooldown of this champion's Taste of Despair passive skill by 1 turn if this attack kills an enemy. That sounds really cool, I like that. Then the A2 Haunted Machete attacks one enemy, has a 75% chance of placing a fear debuff for 1 turn and a 75% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. Has a 75% chance of placing a true fear debuff on 2 enemies for 1 turn if this attack kills an enemy. 1 true fear debuff will be placed on the enemy with the lowest turn meter, while 1 will be placed on the enemy with the highest turn meter on a 3-turn cooldown. Again, very nice ability there, very cool. The A3 Well Used Axe. The basic is attacks one enemy will ignore 35% of the target's defense if the target is under a fear or a true fear debuff. Very standard. Ascended attacks one enemy will ignore 35% of the target's defense if the target is under a fear or true fear debuff, but places a 30% increase speed buff for 2 turns, a revive on death buff for 2 turns, and a block debuffs buff for 1 turn on this champion if the attack kills an enemy on a 5-turn cooldown. Again, sounds pretty cool. Then his passive, Taste of Despair, fills this champion's turn meter by 50% whenever an enemy's HP drops below 20%. So obviously that's going to let him sort of really jump in and try and speed up and nuke people as they're getting close to death anyway. Whether or not that's really cool, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Okay, and Lydia the Death Siren Faction Wars Reward, of course, will be coming out with this. Everybody knows about that. Unfortunately, I probably will not be getting it for some time, as my Faction Wars is nowhere near that good at the moment. But you know, we're going to quickly cover her since she's here. So we've got a legendary Void support champion with the Dark Elves. Her A1 oppression attacks one enemy, has a 75% chance of placing a fear debuff for 1 turn, has a 75% chance of increasing the duration of any poison sensitivity debuffs by 1 turn. Has a passive effect, attacks enemy champions with this skill whenever they place a freeze, stun, fear or true fear debuff on an ally. The number of attacks increases according to how many debuffs are placed at that time. 1 attack for each freeze, stun, fear or true fear debuff placed. The first attack will target the attacker, while the extra hits will attack random enemies and can only attack each enemy once. They say she got nerfed, she's still busted good, let's face it. Attacks all enemies, so her A2 Simon's Wall attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff and a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns. Also places a 25% strengthen buff and a 30% increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. Again, absolutely amazing ability. I think this champion is going to really tear it up. So, her A3, Nullification, attacks one enemy 2 times. The first hit has a 75% chance of placing a 25% poison sensitivity debuff for 2 turns. The second hit has a 75% chance of placing a block buffs and a block cooldown skills debuff for 2 turns. Busted, 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 brilliant. So, a passive, Death Hold, denies enemy revive attempts. This works even if this champion is dead. If this champion is alive when an enemy revive is denied, revives all dead allies with 50% HP and 50% turn meter. Grants an extra turn instead if there are no dead allies. If this champion is dead when the enemy revive is denied, revives this champion with 50% HP and 50% turn meter. This skill will ignore block revives. It is on a 9-turn cooldown, so still busted good. Could kill off the whole revive thing, but we'll see. But at least it's on a 9-turn cooldown. Of course, it's probably going to get booked down a bit. Then we've got the Aura, increase ally resist in arena battles by 100. I'm pretty certain that that's the highest resist in the game. Game changer. So, that's all the champions. The next thing is, they're basically talking about doing a FAQ in the game on the Bastion tab. So you'll be able to click on there, you'll be able to do your bug reports, you'll be able to find links to any of the information you want. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it, but it's going to be there. It's supposedly going to save you time and looking stuff up on YouTube and various other places. And then we've got some new Bazaar editions. The Bazaar editions are 3 new player avatars, which will be added to the Bazaar Gold tier. These will appear at random in a single slot and remain available for 30 days. After that time expires, the avatar will cycle to the next one. Each avatar will be available for purchase once per account. Now, whether or not that means that it's going to cycle back round so that those that can't get them straight off because you're not in gold but you are later will still get a chance to get them, or whether or not they'll disappear and they'll be swapped out for something else, we don't know yet, but we'll see. So, in a nutshell, I'd say in a nutshell, here we are, miscellaneous. Classic Arena rewards will now be available in the Arena Tiers tab and can be claimed by tapping the chest icon there. We'll add an indicator to show players when they have available rewards. We'll fix a bug causing players to get incorrect notification ring progress bar when they're not eligible to advance to the next tag team arena. They keep saying this, but let's face it, it keeps not happening. So I'll believe that one when I see it, but let's hope they do get it fixed, because it's no good. But then let's face it, rather than doing it the way they are doing it, they really need to do a percentage as opposed to limit numbers. But, you know, one of these days they'll get it. So I believe that's everything. Yeah, it is. Okay, so just a quick video, as I say, just to give you a deep dive into the update. Wanted to get it out there quick. Again, I do apologise if the quality's a bit off. Thank you for watching. If you liked, give it a subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.